Massive hike. Flood fears in Delhi as Haryana releases 2 lakh cusecs of water upstream. Additional water likely to reach the capital this evening. Catchment areas under threat. An armed policeman with an assault rifle has 18 bus passengers as hostage in Manila. The gunman, who was sacked over robbery and drug abuse charges, is demanding his job back. And in sports, Arjun Atwal has cemented his place in history, becomes the first golfer from India to win on a PGA Tour. In other stories today, the Nuclear Liability Bill is once again headed towards a fresh controversy. The government says it has brought in new changes to the Civil Nuclear Liability Bill, but the charges against it remain the same, that it is a sellout to the United States. The issue is gathering a storm, and the cabinet meeting had come out with a thrashing solution.
Those stormy scenes are all set to revisit Parliament on the Nuclear Liability Bill. And once again, the charge against the government is compromising the nation's interest. The government changed the bill seemingly to accommodate the criticism, but instead, it has actually introduced new loopholes. Like the amendment in Clause 17, it deals with the operator's right of recourse, specifies that the operator can act against the supplier if the defective equipment causes a nuclear incident, but only if the supplier or his employees had an intent to cause nuclear damage.
Significantly, neither the original bill nor the recommendations of the Parliamentary Standing Committee had any proposal to include the intent clause. And now the opposition is crying foul play.
It will absolve the suppliers of any wrongdoing, and the Indian operators will not be able to take them to any civil suit in India, and that's certainly not in the interest of the Indian citizens.
What is at stake is not only the concerns of the Indian people on this specific issue in the event of a nuclear accident, but also the fundamental sovereign right of the Parliament to legislate autonomously, taking into consideration the people's concerns and the national concerns.
Experts feel the mention of intent will allow the suppliers an escape route. For how do you prove intent in case of an accident? And in that case, who is really accountable and who will bear the cost of the damage? That's what the opposition wants to make the government spell out. With Ratndeep Chaudhary in New Delhi, Bilal Zaidi, News X.
All right, let's bring you an example of what the government is saying and what does the opposition really want. The government says that suppliers may back off if terms are tightened, whereas the BJP on the other hand says that there is no onus on the suppliers. The left parties say that this bill is not in the country's interest. In fact, to understand this entire issue better, we have with us in studio Dr. Suvrokamal Dutta, who's a foreign policy and nuclear expert, and also my colleague Bilal Zaidi will be joining us from the newsroom for better inputs. So let me go across to Dr. Dutta, who's joining us here in the studio. Dr. Dutta, thanks very much for joining us here on NewsX. Can you please put this entire controversy into perspective for us? Previously, we heard about the "and" word, which is creating a problem. Now the problem is far much more bigger. The government is saying that there is no onus. BJP is saying there is no onus on the suppliers. Please put this in perspective for us.
Well, when it comes to the question of onus on the suppliers, what I believe is probably the government has to be much more clear on this, and the government has to take the parliament into confidence first and foremost, because this is a very sensitive bill. It concerns the future of the country, and it concerns our national interest, and not only that, India's geostrategic positioning at the global level would be changing significantly after this bill gets implemented. So therefore, looking into our long-term foreign policy direction as well as our strategic interest also at the Asia-Pacific region, we have to have a clear-cut consensus on this.
Okay.
And the second thing is to have that consensus, the government has to be much more open. It has to spell out everything.
So what do you think is really missing at the moment from...
What I believe is probably there is a kind of a lack of understanding about the bill itself among the different parliamentarians because of the skewed informations which are coming. So there is a kind of a lack of understanding as such. Second thing is like what I also believe is like there is no political, consensus among the political parties on this.
On the issue.
Like in relation to the left, I just want to do in one particular political comment on this. Like the left has always been anti-American right from the beginning. The day the Communist Party of India was formed here in this country, since then they have taken a anti-Indian stand because of their political ideology and all.
Sure.
So having said that, like we have to look into as to on which grounds are they criticizing the bill. That's one thing.
But sorry for interrupting. You said that the government is not very clear on what the bill has to offer, whereas you just made a point about how the left has been also criticizing. But it's just about criticism. We do not know what is the actual criticism the BJP or the left also wants in this matter. Both the parties seem very weak at the moment. Will that be correct to say?
Absolutely, they are quite weak, and I would say that they are on a weaker wicket as such. And I think the government is also not on a very stronger wicket too. So like in my understanding, there has to be a clear-cut understanding about the whole thing. Not only that, like there are many issues related to it, the reactors which are thorium-based, the reactors which are uranium-based, transformation of the existing reactors from thorium into uranium, uranium 234, 235, These are very complicated matters, in which we need a hell lot of very advanced and high technology. Together with that, we also have to have a gestation period, a kind of a time frame for that. So all this has to be made very, very clear. The second thing is like when it comes to the question of economic side of the bill, or the business side of the bill, how much do we gain out of it? What is our profit? What are our losses? When it comes to the question of nuclear commerce, who is the gainer? Who is the loser?
So there are some questions you are saying are unanswered at the moment. In fact, let's go across to my colleague Bilal, who's joining us from the newsroom. Bilal, Dr. Dutta here is raising a few questions, how they are unanswered. It goes to show perhaps these could be the questions of perhaps who gains, whether it's India, whether it's the other countries, foreign countries who are gaining from this bill. What is it looking like to you where this whole controversy is brewing up? Do you think the government will be able to pass this nuclear bill the way it is today in the parliament?
See, actually, the nuclear bill stays like that, but we're right now talking about the Nuclear Liability Bill. The bigger question, who really is responsible for the liability in case of a mishap? If there is a nuclear accident or any incident, then who really is responsible? Is it the operator or is it the supplier who's really largely the American companies that are lining up to give away and provide nuclear supplies and the installations and the infrastructure setup? Now, at this stage, what we're really looking at is perhaps the government at the receiving end and perhaps being a little too negative in being able to just go ahead and get a proper deal, a balanced deal with the US. That's something that the BJP now is saying. Today, once again, BJP taking a U-turn to the compromise that was perhaps made. Remember, initially there was this talk about perhaps increasing the cap from 500 crores to 1500 crores. That was done by the UPA government. In fact, that was done without really giving any kind of a resistance, perhaps just going to show the kind of stakes that are involved here. Also, really there were clauses like the use of the word "and" between the operator and the supplier. That was removed. The comma was used. But today we are really talking about another clause, that's intent. Now that's something that the BJP has taken a strong exception to once again, and they're talking about really questioning the government's intentions and demanding that the government should come out clean, and only when they're able to decide who really is liable.
Okay, Bilal, we'll have to leave it at that because we're kind of running out of time. But before we wrap up, just one quick reaction from you, Dr. Dutta. Who do you think in the end is responsible for something like that in the end?
Well, it is ultimately the political parties of our country as well as the government which is responsible for it. Yesterday also I said it in your channel, and day before yesterday also. The issue of liability is a very important issue, and that needs to be very, very clearly debated upon. Together with that, there are many other additional issues which are there. What do international laws say if there is a disaster? Who is responsible for it? What is the intention? The question of intent, all these are very, very important matters. And at least and until all these are totally specified and totally debated upon, I think this controversy will continue.
All right, Dr. Dutta, thanks very much for joining us. For the women, of course, Bilal Tadi bringing us the perspective of what is it looking like in the parliament. Clearly, a lot of questions still have to be answered where this civil nuclear liability bill is concerned. So we're also asking you a question, our viewers on NewsX forum, where you can log on to our website and answer this question. Is Prime Minister's obsession with the nuclear liability bill jeopardizing India's long-term interests? You can log on to our website, that's newsx.com, and post in your comments on the web. And with that, we're stepping in for a short break here. When we come back, in the hostage drama in Philippine capital Manila, where a tourist bus was hijacked by an armed ex-policeman, 9 people have been released so far. We'll bring you all the details in just a bit. Stay with us.
Now you don't need a TV set to get Premier English news. Watch NewsX on your PC. Log on to newsx.com for India's first high-quality live channel webcast. Catch full-screen video with clear, sharp images. Stay tuned wherever you are. newsx.com.
They need a base to hit from. Oh, this is in the air again now. Has he got enough on this? I think he has. Oh, it's been put down. Neil Drew. He had the opportunity to throw.
Sport Grandstand. At this time on NewsX.
I'm at Delhi's biggest Guruvayurappan temple, where the million-strong Malayali population of the city congregates during Onam, their most important harvest festival. And I'll be bringing you coverage of the cultural programs that are going on right behind me through the day. Keep watching NewsX.
Thanks for staying with us here on NewsX at 4:30. A quick check of our headlines. 2 actresses and a foreigner among 9 held for prostitution in Andhra Pradesh. Police raid reveals the racket could be much bigger than it appears. Militants killed 3 locals in Kashmir, mother and daughter from a Kulgam family among those killed in cold blood. MPs get additional 10,000 rupees allowance hike after government's reported deal with Lalu and Mulayam. NewsX asks if our parliamentarians deserve such a massive hike. Flood fears in Delhi as Haryana releases 2 lakh cusecs of water upstream. Additional water likely to reach the capital this evening. Catchment areas under threat. An armed policeman with an assault rifle has 18 bus passengers as hostage in Manila. The gunman, who was sacked over robbery and drug abuse charges, is demanding his job back. And in sports, Arjun Atwal has cemented his place in history, becomes the first golfer from India to win on the PGA Tour. The Hyderabad police has busted a high-profile prostitution racket involving a few TV and film actresses. The Telugu actress Saira Banu and Jyoti and 7 others were caught red-handed along with their customers from an apartment in the Kundan Bagh neighbourhood. Now, this is a high-security area having houses of ministers, bureaucrats and other VIPs. An Uzbek woman has also been nabbed. The police have not revealed the identity of the others arrested. All the accused have been booked under PITA. In fact, the Uzbek girl is booked for overstaying. Her visa has expired. The Hyderabad Police Commissioner said about 60 people, including a few actresses, were under watch for drug-related offences and other crimes. Now, this is not the first time that a Telugu actress has been arrested for such crimes. In 2009, actress Seema was arrested from Hyderabad for prostitution and drug abuse. In fact, today's